Hi everybody and welcome to my channel. My name is Iman Al-Banna. I'm the owner of Contrive and I'm the one who made the colorful hydro bags, and I love how simple this bag is. It really comes together very fast, and I had a lot of inquiries on how I simplified it, and I promised to share it with everybody. So this is what this video is going to be about. I'm going to share all the dimensions and all my how-to of making this very easy and very simple bag, materials and everything. Stay tuned and let's get started. So this is the material I use. This is waterproof canvas that I get from it's Ottertex waterproof canvas from Fabric Wholesale Direct. This is the outer material I use. For the lining, I use this 300D Ripstop polyester. It's also waterproof. It has a little bit of structure without being too thick. I love the look of it and the finish, and I mean, it's waterproof, and because both of them are waterproof and structured, I really don't need to interface anything. A little, yeah. So 6 by 12, 6 by 12, 5.5 by 12, 6 by 2, and 6 by 7.5. That makes sense. I hope it does. And then the lining, this is a 12 by 16.5, a 12 by 6, and a 6 by 9.5. I'll try to put all the dimensions in the bottom, if I know how to do that. I've never done that before, so I'll try. Okay, so I got the webbing. I got a 60-inch long strap with, and then I take a 3-inch out of it for the D-ring, for the connector. I get one D-ring, one Triglide. I like to use 1.5-inch webbing because anything thinner than that is not going to be comfortable for a water bottle carrier. It gets heavy, but that's me. And 6-inch zipper and a slider, and I put my tag on everything. So this is my tag and the rivets for it. I'll keep everything together here so I don't lose them. And let's go to the sewing machine. Okay, so I'm here on my sewing machine. I love to do the zippers on my lightweight industrial. I find it much easier for many reasons, and I think they come up a whole lot better. I start by tacking the zipper down at like a 1/8 inch, and same thing for the bottom, 1/8 of an inch. And I separate them and get the lining, and you don't have to separate them, I just find it easier. And we're going to separate them anyway to top stitch, so might as well. I sewed the zipper at about 5/8. Not a 1/4 inch, because I find it looks better when it's closer to the teeth. I love runoff strips. They are a lifesaver when you're using an industrial. You don't have to hold threads. You have both hands to support your work when you're starting, when you're ending. They're just amazing. And you can also make sure your tension is correct, nothing is tight, so you don't ruin a good piece of your bag while you're working. And I always have a ton of those floating around. Probably a lot of them on the floor too. Some people call them runoff strips, some people call them stitch starters, and I think they work both ways. Stitch starters or runoff strips, either way. And this part is done. I also like to put the pocket lining just to get it over with at this point. So when I go to top stitch, it's just one step to that. So anything that has to do with the lining, I do it here on the lightweight machine. So the lining piece, which is the 9.5 by 6 inch, goes here on the top of the 2 inch from the top. And I'm sorry, I didn't mention, this is the 12 by 6. That's the pocket lining. So when you top stitch and you sew it together, it's going to be like that. And that will be the front pocket. And then this is the pocket lining because for the slip pocket. So I sew it right now because, like I said, I like to do all my lining pieces at once to get them done. Here, this is a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And this part is done. I'm going to move it to my heavy machine over there, and then we'll do the lining piece. The lining piece, that's the piece that's 16.5 by 12. That's going to be the bag lining. And I sew it at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I know many people don't prefer the 1/4 inch. I love the 1/4 inch, but if you like to do a bigger seam allowance, make sure to compensate in the size when you're cutting. And we leave an opening to turn the bag. Okay, and yeah, while we're at it, snip the centers. And for the top, I also snip where the straps are going to be, and that helps a lot later. So I bring center to where I snip the center right here, and I open the seam allowance. You see it like that. Oops, no, hold on. Yeah, right there. Seam allowance open, and I okay. There you go. I'll clip this here just long enough to let me snip. This is where the straps are going to be, and it makes it much easier later. So I snip it right now. Now, bottom, do the same thing. Open the seam allowance if you want to give it a good press with your fingers. And this is one of the things I love about this fabric is you press it and it will crease. Like even for the lining, I will do this. I don't need that anymore. I will do this so when it's time to close the opening, the crease is there and it creates a perfect line for you, or crease for you to see when you're closing this opening later. It's like folding paper. Really, the line just stays. Anyway, let's do the bottom. So here, same thing. Open the seam allowance. Clip at the center. If I'm giving too much information and you guys feel like this is a given thing, you don't really need to explain that, feel free to mute, and I apologize. Now, okay, so next step would be to mark, where's my spot? To mark the corners that we're going to clip. So I do 1.5 by 1.5, but I like to sew the bottom at a 1/2 inch for the lining, so it was a little shorter than the main fabric. So the corners we are cutting will be 1.5 by 2. 1.5 this way and 2 inches this way, like that. This is 1.5 inches, and this here is 2 inches, if that makes any sense. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. 1.5 by 2. Because when I sew at a 1/2 inch, it becomes 1.5 by 1.5. Why do I have a feeling I did this wrong? No, I did it correctly. Okay, now you can cut it later or you can cut it now, whichever you're comfortable with. I like to cut it before so I don't end up snipping the stitching when I cut them off. And I keep those. I use them for another bag as zipper tabs. And they turned out to be the perfect size. Okay, now half an inch seam allowance. And then we square the corners. And I just fold this down because it goes with the direction of the fabric right there. I'm clipping because I'm trying to do it as neat as possible, but when I do it, you're not in front of the camera, I just hold it really well and I really don't clip. I try to avoid clipping whenever I can. Could be lazy, could be just that I don't think it's necessary in every single instance, but it's just me. I sew the corners at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. and the lining is done. And the best part, since we snipped these corners right here, I don't know if they're visible, that's where the straps are going to be on the bag. So it's, yeah, I'll show you that later. So this is done. We'll put that aside, and I'll move to my heavy machine. So I moved to my heavy sewing machine, and now we're gonna do the top stitching. So first of all, I start with this one, this part, the top part of the zipper, which is the 2-inch piece, and I fold it up so the zipper is sitting down like this, and the seam allowance of both and the zipper is up. And I sew at 1/8 seam allowance. And I'm using Tex 90. I found it's much better for top stitching. It looks a whole lot neater. Where's my snips? Right here. Uh-oh. I just oiled my machine, and I think I'm having some excess oil dripping. Let me see if I can get rid of that. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Next is the bottom part, which was the 7.5 inch by 6 inch piece, the bottom piece of the pocket, and I fold the lining in, down, and the top down. So for this piece, both of them are down and the zipper is up, which is the normal. I'm sorry if I'm giving too many instructions or too much details. I apologize. And my balance is good. Okay. Now, I also fold this up. Okay. And then top stitch here. So that would be the top part of the zipper pocket. And now we put the zipper tab on. Okay. I think it's good. Okay. Let's put the next one in. Put it back in. And we're good. Okay. Now I like to tack, baste around. It makes the next step much easier. make sure the pocket lining piece is lined up right here. Oh, okay, this is not showing properly. I'm so sorry. So make sure the lining piece is lined up here properly. Everything is on the edge properly, and next I'm gonna mark my tag. Placement. You can totally skip this part if you don't put a tag. That's totally a personal choice type of thing. And then go through. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna go set the tag in on my arbor press. I'll be right back. So I set the tag in. Okay, so the next part is joining the pocket to the centerpiece. This is the 12 by 5.5 piece, and this is 6 inches wide, and the reason I do that is to give it some slack for the phone, because if I do 5.5, the phone, it's a very tight fit, especially if you have a big bottle in the bag. Excuse me. So I do a 6. I make it ½ inch wider. Now I used to taper from 6 to 5, like caught on an angle, but I found that it was still tight at the bottom, so I decided to pleat it. And this is how I do it. You can do it on more than one step. I do it in one step because I got used to it, but again, it's the same. You'll get the gesture. Just at 1/8 of an inch. And then I kind of create a pleat right there. And it doesn't have to be measured or anything. It's just about a quarter of an inch. And then I'll go to almost to the end, and then match the edges, and that will create another pleat right there. And that's it. Creates 2 pleats, and when it's folded, it's at the bottom, you won't even see them, but it gives the slack you need for the phone to fit comfortably with a big bottle in the bag. And with these dimensions, you can actually fit up to a 64-ounce bottle. And that's done. The pocket piece, which is technically, once this is done, I always feel like, okay, the bag is almost done, because this is most of the work. and it looks super neat. Okay, now let's put the sides. I also do a 1/4 inch seam allowance for the sides. Same thing for the other side. 1/4 inch seam allowance. Always like match the edges like that right there. That's what I like to do, and then hold this with my hand and flatten everything down like that to make sure I'm not going to end up with a long piece at the end that doesn't make sense. And I'll keep my hand on it, and I pull tight to make sure it stays straight. I'm sorry, my hands are in the way and I'm not sure how to avoid that. I'll maybe find a different angle. I'll try that. Now top stitching. I'll increase the tension just a little. And then the next side. And canvas is really easy to crease. So, well, not very easy, but it creases nicely. And create a good crease right there to make the top stitching look neat. And you just, and the top stitching is also 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Oh my gosh, it got wider right here. Yeah, I'm not crazy about that. I don't like that. I'm gonna redo that and come back. So I unpicked it and I'm gonna top stitch again. Unpicking top stitching is one of the worst things you have to do if you want to keep it neat. Also, when it sticks 90, it's really not a fun thing to do. Now I'm gonna go slow so I do not do that again.
And that's perfect. Looks very nice. Very nice. Okay. And we're almost done. How fast was that? Okay, let's put the back together. And that's also a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Again, if you're not comfortable with 1/4 inch seam allowance, go bigger, but make sure to compensate for the dimensions. This is done, and we'll open up. Before we open the seam, let's snip the center. So right there. I'll do the same thing for the top, and we'll do what we did for the lining, where we snip the side centers so we would know where the straps are gonna go. So you flatten this open and bring it to the center. And then first and that's done. And this will be where, right, this snip, this will be where, it's not showing, it's showing right there. These two snips, these will be where the straps go. And so we will do the same thing for the bottom. Open the seam and try to flatten it as much as you can all the way. Actually makes it look very nice on the outside when you do that, but I also do it again after I flip it inside out. It's best to do it now, of course, but anyway. And clip, and this time we're going to, yeah, and same thing with the squares. Where's my ruler? Oh, it's right there. And I'll use a silver pen since this is dark. Okay, so this time, since I'm going to be sewing the bottom at a 1/4 inch, I'm going to make the square 1.5 by 1 3/4. In the lining we did 1.5 by 2, but in the main body we do 1.5 by 1 3/4. Yes, okay. I don't know why I was second guessing myself. And then right here, same, 1.5 by 1 3/4. Again, I will clip this right away. Okay. Make sure this doesn't get like out. Uh-oh. That's right there. Okay. Make sure that this part here, because this is where the pleat is, it doesn't get opened and like kind of get messed up. So this like all 3 layers together with the back. And if you're worried, put a pin, a clip right there. And the same thing. I usually don't, but for the sake of making sure it gets neat. This is, yeah. And I'm gonna flip it because I want to make sure I leave the seam opened. So I'm sewing from this side. And quarter inch. Okay, the clip is not. It's bothering me. And that's the part done. And that's that. And then we square the corners. Just make sure when you're pushing everything together. It's not going to come apart because of the top stitching, but because we snipped this here, make sure you just put your finger in it so it doesn't put any strain on the top stitching and make it come undone. It's never happened to me, but it could happen, and this is one of the reasons I love the Tex 90. It's not very easy to come undone. Here I have to make this go that way because this is where the pocket is, so there's a lot of layers here. I cannot fold it that way like we did with the lining. I have to make it go this way. And I'm used to doing it without pinning or clipping, but please feel free to clip. Side, same thing, and we're almost done. Once I get to this part here, I feel like the bag is 95% done. Okay, and same thing here. Make sure all the layers are in place. And the main body is done. Let's flip it. This is how it looks like from the bottom, right there. And let's flip it. Like I said, you don't even see the pleats anymore. They're in the bottom down there. You won't even see them in the front or the back, but they do give the pocket some really good slack for you to put your phone comfortably, especially when the bag has a big bottom in it. Now, the next step, I like to put, yeah, so the next step is going to be the rectangle ring and D-ring. I mean, sorry, the rectangle ring and the Triglide. And I like to, especially when the webbing is stiff like that, I like to just baste it together before I put it on the bag. And then so I moved too fast and it slipped and it beats the whole point of the top stitching. And when the webbing is very stiff, the best thing to do is to start the basting in the middle, not in at the beginning, so it doesn't push the layers away. And then once you start and that's done. And that keeps them together, so when you put them on the bag, they don't slip away from each other. Now the next part is I always put the D-ring on the left side of the bag, and I could do it here, but I find it much easier on the cylinder arm, and I haven't had that cylinder arm for too long, and I have been making these for a lot longer, so it's definitely doable here. It's just easier on the cylinder arm, so I'm going to move to the cylinder arm and come back to show you. Okay, so I'm back. I just had to change the thread and go from there. So remember the notch we did to show the where the strap is gonna go. This one here, yeah, that's where the strap is gonna go. Well, the first we're gonna start with the part with the connector, the D-ring, and this is why I love doing this on the cylinder arm. It just sits, and you center this with the thing. And again, I like to start in the center. So it doesn't shift. And this part is done. Okay. Okay. And then the other side. Right. And right here, I like to put the Triglide now, but again, it's a personal preference, but because my Triglides have like a little bit of a curve, so it actually have like an up and down, so I put it now to make sure I am fitting it right. Now this one goes there. This is done. And I'll show you something super cool. The dimensions are spot on to the point I don't even pin when I put the lining. They are really perfect, spot on. I'll show you this. I just have to do the close the strap. and I fold this under because it looks a lot neater when you do that. And you have to be very slow because again this is stiff, thick webbing that you don't want to go too fast with. Make sure it's lined. Okay, and this is done. Okay, the next step, which is basically the last step, is this goes in here, and we have to align all the notches. So this is how I'm very confident in the dimensions. Well, actually, I've made them many times before, but it's a perfect fit. I don't even need to pinch. All I do is align the notches while I'm working, and I go from there. So this here, just the 2 seam allowances opened and aligned, and I start there. Oh, I almost forgot. I do this at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. It makes it sit better, and the top stitching is neater. Okay. And like you can see, I don't even need to adjust anything. It's perfectly centered with the webbing. And here again, perfectly. I don't know if you can see it or not. It's right there, perfectly. They come together nicely. I'm sorry if it's not showing. Anyway, you'll see at the end that nothing will be like too much or too little. It aligns perfectly. And that's done. All we need to do now is bring it up. Now, I like to pull this and just crease it with my finger like that. It makes the top stitching again sit much neater. Now I'm gonna extend the arm a little. I don't have to, but it makes it easier. So I don't have to hold the bag. It's actually like lying on the arm. And that's that. Now, remember the crease we did on the lining? It actually is still there, and it makes folding this down oh, I'm not showing it, I'm sorry. It makes folding this down exactly at the 1/4 inch very easy, right there. And you can bring them together, and it will look very neat because it is. Oops, sorry. Okay. Let's close this. Look how neat it is. Okay, top stitching and done. I like to start from the back, so the tying, like the back stitching and like the tying is in the back. No, it's not visible in the front of the bag. And I just crease the edges as I go. And we're done. And it's done. That's it. I hope you guys liked the video. I hope you liked my explanation. I hope it was clear enough. I know my arm was in the way a few times, but I tried. It's my first full bag making video. I've made just shorts before, but anyway, I really hope you guys enjoy making them and make lots and share with me. Thank you guys. Bye.